I, 28F, never thought I'd be writing this kind of post, but I need to get this off my chest. I come from a family of restaurateurs. My dad, 58M, started with just one small diner in 1994 after immigrating to the US. He worked 16-hour days, cooking in the kitchen while my mom, 56F, handled the front. I grew up watching them build this business from nothing, often sleeping in the office while they worked late nights. That small diner became our family's legacy. Through incredibly hard work and my dad's amazing recipes, passed down through generations in our home country, we expanded to a second location when I was 10. By the time I was in high school, we had 5 restaurants. Now we have 12 locations across our state, all successful and well known for authentic cuisine and family atmosphere. My older brother Mark, 34M, was always Dad's golden child. He started helping in the restaurants when he was 14, learning everything about the business from the ground up. After getting his business degree, he joined full-time and helped modernize our operations. I took a different path initially, wanting to prove myself outside the family business. I got my MBA from a top school and worked in consulting for 2 years before joining the family business 3 years ago. When I came back, Dad made both Mark and me equal partners, each getting 25% while he and Mom kept 50%. Mark wasn't happy about this, feeling he deserved more since he'd been there longer, but he didn't say anything directly to Dad. Looking back, this was probably the start of the problems, though the real catalyst was Sarah, 32F. Mark met Sarah at a charity event 5 years ago. She came from old money. Her family owned several luxury car dealerships in the neighboring state. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed perfect for Mark. They got married after just 6 months of dating, which should have been our first red flag. What we didn't know then was that Sarah had been cut off by her family due to a gambling addiction that had nearly bankrupted one of their dealerships. She told us she'd gotten help and was in recovery, and we all believed her. Sarah started working as our marketing director about 4 years ago. Mark insisted she was perfect for the role because of her high-class connections and social media expertise. At first, it seemed like a great decision. Our social media presence grew exponentially, we got featured in several food magazines, and our catering business expanded to high-end events we couldn't access before. Sarah seemed to be thriving, and Mark was happier than ever. I started noticing small things after I joined the company. Social media numbers looked inflated, marketing expenses seemed high for what we were getting, and some vendors I'd never heard of were getting regular payments. But whenever I brought it up, Mark would get defensive and say I was just jealous of Sarah's success. Dad trusted Mark's judgment, and Mom adored Sarah, so I tried to ignore my concerns. Everything came to a head 6 months ago when our longtime accountant, Mr. Chen, asked for an urgent meeting with Dad and me. He had discovered numerous small transfers being made to various marketing companies we'd never worked with. These companies looked legitimate at first glance, but when Mr. Chen dug deeper, he found they were all shells leading back to accounts controlled by Sarah. The amount stolen was staggering, nearly $400,000 over 4 years, all siphoned through fake marketing companies and inflated vendor invoices. Mr. Chen had documented everything meticulously, showing how Sarah had managed to hide the theft for so long by creating elaborate fake campaigns and events that never actually happened. When we confronted Sarah with the evidence, she broke down completely. She admitted to everything, crying about how she had relapsed into gambling 2 years after marrying Mark and how the debts had been piling up. She begged for another chance, promising to pay everything back if we didn't go to the police. Mark's reaction was what shocked us the most. Instead of being angry at Sarah's betrayal, he defended her. He argued that she was sick and needed help, not punishment. He reminded Dad about how much the business had grown since Sarah joined and suggested we could write off the stolen money as marketing expenses. When Dad refused and said he wanted to press charges, Mark threatened to sell his shares to one of our competitors. The family is completely divided. Mark and Mom think we should handle this privately to protect the family's reputation. They're worried that a scandal could hurt our businesses and destroy everything we've built. Mom keeps saying that family should stick together no matter what and that Sarah deserves a second chance. But Dad and I believe Sarah needs to face consequences. We already gave her a second chance by trusting her with our business after what she did to her family. Yes, we just found out about that. Sarah's parents contacted us after hearing about the situation from a mutual friend. Apparently, Sarah had done almost the exact same thing to their dealership years ago, embezzling money through fake advertising companies. They had chosen not to press charges to avoid scandal, and Sarah had used that second chance to do the same thing to us. Now Mark and Sarah are trying to strong-arm us. They're demanding that we either buy out Mark's shares at triple their market value or restructure the company to give them 50% ownership. Their lawyer sent us a letter threatening to go public with supposed internal issues that could damage our reputation if we don't comply. They're essentially trying to blackmail us after stealing from us. Dad is devastated by this betrayal. He had always planned to pass the business to Mark eventually, seeing him as the more business-minded child. Mom spends most days crying, torn between her children. The stress of all this is affecting Dad's health. His blood pressure is through the roof, and his doctor is worried about his heart. I've been gathering all the evidence and meeting with our lawyers. Dad has given me power of attorney and full authority to handle this situation since he's not in the best health right now. I'm planning to take legal action against both Mark and Sarah, not just for the theft but also for their attempted extortion. I know this will permanently damage our family relationships, but I can't let them destroy everything my parents built. Our lawyers say we have a strong case, but I'm worried about the impact on our business and my parents' health. Mark knows all our suppliers, has relationships with our best customers, and knows every secret recipe. He could do a lot of damage if he wanted to. But at the same time, I can't let him and Sarah get away with this betrayal. Am I wrong for wanting to pursue legal action? Should I give in to their demands to protect the family peace? I feel like I'm choosing between justice and family, and it's tearing me apart. Update 1: Things have escalated far beyond what any of us could have imagined. After my last post and reading your comments supporting legal action, I met with our lawyers and decided to press charges against Sarah. We filed all the necessary paperwork and had our attorneys notify Mark and Sarah formally. Their response has thrown our entire family into chaos. Instead of responding through legal channels, Sarah went on the offensive. She contacted several local news outlets and even a popular regional business magazine with a shocking story. She claimed our family business was built through money laundering and tax evasion, painting herself as a whistleblower who discovered these illegal activities while working as our marketing director. According to her story, we were framing her for theft to silence her and prevent her from exposing our criminal empire. The media attention was immediate and overwhelming. 3 local news stations ran stories about allegations of criminal activity at our restaurants. Our phones started ringing nonstop with reporters wanting comments. Several food bloggers who had previously praised our restaurants now posted about supporting businesses with ethical practices. We even had health inspectors show up at 2 of our locations, apparently tipped off about violations. We were forced to hire a PR firm and make public statements defending ourselves. Our lawyers advised us to be completely transparent, so we opened our books to prove our innocence. We had to show decades of clean tax audits and compliance records. This helped counter Sarah's allegations, but the damage to our reputation was already done. During this chaos, our forensic accountant made an even more disturbing discovery. While going through years of financial records to prove our legitimacy, he found evidence that Mark had been actively helping Sarah cover her tracks. Mark's signature was on many of the fraudulent transfers, and he had personally created several of the fake marketing companies they used to siphon money. What we initially thought was $400,000 stolen by Sarah alone turned out to be closer to $800,000 stolen by both of them. The forensic accountant found emails between Mark and Sarah discussing how to hide the transfers and create convincing fake marketing campaigns. Some emails dated back to before their marriage, suggesting this might have been their plan from the start. They had been systematically stealing from us while making it look like successful marketing initiatives. Mom, who had been defending Mark and Sarah until now, finally saw their true colors when Sarah tried to blackmail her personally. Sarah sent Mom a text threatening to tell everyone about Mom's supposed affair from 20 years ago, a complete fabrication that Sarah made up. She demanded $50,000 in exchange for her silence. Mom was devastated, not just by the attempted extortion but by the realization that Sarah would invent such a cruel lie about her. The stress of everything caused Dad to have a minor heart attack last week. He's stable now but had to spend 3 days in the hospital. While he was there, Mark and Sarah tried to take advantage of his absence. They attempted to call an emergency board meeting to vote on company restructuring, thinking Dad wouldn't be able to attend. They didn't know that Dad had already signed power of attorney to me, making their attempt completely useless. But that wasn't the end of their schemes. We discovered through some of our longtime clients that Sarah had been contacting our major suppliers and biggest customers. She was telling them that our company was about to go bankrupt due to tax fraud investigations. She offered to help them transfer their contracts to a new restaurant company she and Mark were planning to start. Thankfully, many of these clients have known our family for years and forwarded us these emails, which our lawyers have added to our case against them. The whole situation has taken an enormous toll on our family and business. Our revenue is down 30% across all locations because of the negative publicity. Some suppliers are demanding upfront payments now, worried about the allegations despite our proof of innocence. 3 of our restaurant managers quit because they didn't want to be associated with the controversy. Dad is still in recovery, and his doctors say he needs to avoid stress. Mom spends most of her time either at the hospital with him or crying at home. She blames herself for not seeing Mark's true nature sooner. Our other relatives are divided, some support us, while others think we should have handled everything privately to avoid the scandal. I've been working 18-hour days trying to manage both the business and the legal situation. Our lawyers are now preparing additional charges against both Mark and Sarah for defamation and tortious interference with business relationships. They're confident we can prove malicious intent given the evidence we have. Mark and Sarah have gone completely silent since their failed board meeting attempt. Their lawyer sent us another threatening letter, but this time demanding a $2 million settlement to resolve all issues amicably. Our lawyers say this letter actually helps our case as it shows a pattern of extortion. I'm exhausted and angry, but also more determined than ever to see this through. They're not just trying to steal from us anymore, they're actively trying to destroy everything my parents spent their lives building. I won't let them succeed. Many of you asked in comments on my last post if I had considered just paying them off to make this go away. Now you can see why that wasn't an option. They would have never stopped demanding more. The only way forward is through the legal system, no matter how painful or costly it might be. Update 2: The truth about Mark and Sarah's schemes has finally exploded into the open, but in a way none of us expected. Last week, Sarah tried to access one of our company's investment accounts to transfer $150,000. Our new security measures caught the attempt immediately, but what happened next revealed just how deep this conspiracy went. 2 days after her failed transfer attempt, 3 men showed up at our main restaurant looking for Sarah. They were clearly not the kind of people you want to mess with. Our security camera footage showed them having a heated argument with her in the parking lot. Later that day, Sarah had a complete breakdown during a meeting with our lawyers. She confessed everything, and I mean everything. Apparently, she owes nearly $2 million to some very dangerous loan sharks. Her gambling hadn't just been casino visits or online betting, she'd gotten involved with an illegal gambling ring that runs high-stakes games. When she couldn't pay her debts, they started threatening her family. But here's the real bombshell: Mark was involved in the gambling too. Sarah revealed that they had targeted our family business specifically because we were family and would be less likely to suspect them. Their entire relationship was built on this plan. Mark had known about her past schemes with her family's dealership before they even got married. He had similar gambling problems but had hidden them better. According to Sarah, Mark was the one who came up with most of their schemes. The fake marketing companies? His idea. The media attack plan and fake whistleblower story? Also his plan. They had been using the stolen money not just for Sarah's debts but also to cover Mark's losses. Sarah showed us text messages and emails proving Mark had orchestrated everything from the beginning. The most devastating revelation was about our recipes and processes. Our family's recipes, passed down through generations and perfected by my dad, were one of our biggest assets. Sarah confessed that she and Mark had been selling our confidential information to competitors for the past 2 years. They had made deals with 5 different restaurant chains, selling them not just our recipes but also details about our suppliers, cooking processes, and even our expansion plans. This explained why several competing restaurants had suddenly started offering dishes very similar to our signature items. We had noticed the similarity but never imagined it was because they had literally bought our recipes. They even sold the special spice blend that my grandfather had created, something that was supposed to be a closely guarded family secret. Our lawyers immediately filed additional charges against both Mark and Sarah for corporate espionage and theft of trade secrets. They're also preparing lawsuits against the restaurants that bought our stolen information. The evidence Sarah provided makes these cases pretty much airtight. Sarah's parents have also come forward with more information about her past schemes. Apparently, what she did to their dealership was even worse than they initially told us. She hadn't just stolen money, she had also sold confidential client information to competitors and tried to frame her brother for the theft. They regret not pressing charges back then, saying their attempt to handle it privately only enabled her to do it again. The most shocking part was learning about Mark's gambling debts. Sarah showed us records indicating he had lost over $1.5 million in the past 3 years. He had been using company money to place bets through offshore gambling sites, carefully hiding the transactions through their network of fake companies. Some of these bets were on local high school sports games, which is not just ethically wrong but also highly illegal. We've had to hire forensic accountants to go through every transaction from the past 5 years. They're still finding new fake companies and hidden transfers. The total amount stolen might end up being well over $1 million when everything is tallied up. Dad hasn't said a word since learning about the recipes being sold. Those recipes were his pride and joy, representing our family's heritage and his life's work. Mom is beside herself, alternating between rage at Mark's betrayal and deep depression about raising a son capable of such actions. I've been working with our chefs to modify our recipes and processes to differentiate ourselves from the competitors who bought our stolen information. It's hard work, but we're determined to rebuild and make our food unique again. Dad has even started coming to the kitchen some evenings, quietly working on new recipes for the first time in years. The criminal investigation is now focusing on both the gambling ring and the corporate espionage. The FBI has gotten involved due to the interstate nature of their schemes and the illegal gambling operation. Our lawyers say Mark and Sarah are both looking at serious prison time. Update 3: The legal proceedings have finally concluded, and justice has been served, though the aftermath has left our family forever changed. Both Mark and Sarah were found guilty on multiple charges including grand theft, fraud, corporate espionage, and criminal conspiracy. Mark was sentenced to 8 years in prison, while Sarah got 6 years. The judge also ordered them to repay $1.8 million in restitution, though realistically, we'll probably never see that money. The civil case went in our favor too. The court granted our request to forcibly buy out Mark's 25% ownership at market value, significantly less than the inflated price he had demanded months ago. All the competing restaurants that bought our stolen recipes had to sign settlements agreeing to stop using our recipes and pay substantial damages. Sarah's parents' testimony proved crucial in the trial. They provided detailed records of her previous schemes, including evidence that Mark had actually helped her deal with the fallout from defrauding their dealership, something that happened before they even started dating. This proved their relationship had been built on deception from the very beginning. The gambling ring investigation led to some major arrests in our area. We learned that Mark had been acting as a sort of recruiter, bringing in wealthy business owners to their high-stakes games. The FBI found evidence that he had tried to recruit several of our restaurant suppliers too, which explained why some of them had been having financial troubles lately. Dad has officially retired from daily operations but still comes to the main restaurant almost every day. He's found healing in the kitchen, creating new recipes and teaching them to our chefs personally. The betrayal about the recipes hit him hardest, but watching him work on new dishes has brought back some of his old spark. Mom had a harder time healing. She refused to attend the sentencing and hasn't spoken Mark's name since the trial. She's focused all her energy on our childhood charity project, providing meals to underprivileged kids, something Mark always complained was a waste of money. The business has actually emerged stronger from this crisis. Our transparency during the scandal and the vindication through the courts earned us customer loyalty. Many regular customers made a point of supporting us during the tough times, and our new recipes have been receiving rave reviews. We've implemented strict financial controls and background checks for all management positions, making the company more secure than ever. Mark tried to contact us from prison last week. He sent letters to everyone in the family claiming Sarah had manipulated and trapped him, that he was a victim too. Dad threw his letter away unopened. I read mine, it was full of excuses and attempts to shift blame. He still doesn't understand that his actions, not Sarah's manipulation, destroyed our family. Sarah filed for divorce from prison, likely hoping it would help her get a lighter sentence. It didn't work. Her father told us she's already trying to scheme with other inmates, proving she hasn't changed at all. I've taken full control of the business now, holding 75% ownership while my parents keep the remaining 25% in a trust. We've opened 2 new locations in the past month, and there's talk of expanding to neighboring states. Dad's new recipes have created quite a buzz in the restaurant scene, with food critics calling them a bold reinvention of classic favorites. Some family members still think we were too harsh on Mark, that prison time for a family matter was excessive. But we know we did the right thing. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, and some family bonds, once broken, can't be repaired. We're focusing on building a stronger future, honoring the real family values of hard work and honesty that my parents originally built this business on.